UD1, Awakening, the True Brahmin. The first chapter establishes the most astonishing thesis of Buddhism, that it is possible, in this very life, and without assistance from divine entities of magical powers, to let go of all suffering and realize human perfection simply through the power of understanding. The chapter opens in Yerovala with 3 discourses celebrating the Buddha's awakening. It thus signals that the narrative of the Udāna begins with the Buddha's awakening. Now, the life story of the Buddha as a whole follows the threefold pattern of the classical hero myth. The first part deals with the Buddha's origin story, his life at home in Kapilavatthu, and the reason he left on his quest. The second part is the 6 years in the wilderness culminating in his realization of awakening. The third part begins with the awakening and tells of how the Buddha brought the fruits of his experience back into the world for the benefit of others. And this third part, the return, is what the Udāna is about. This narrative arc finds its fullest expression in the portion of the Vinaya known as the Khandhakas. Indeed, the Khandhakas begin with a series of teachings that are found in the Udāna as discourses 1 to 4 of the first chapter, and the first discourse of the second chapter. The Khandhakas wrap up their main narrative with the Buddha's passing away, and along the way deal with some of the same events we find in the Udāna, such as Devdatta's betrayal. The overall theme of the 2 texts is the same. How is the radical experience of the Buddha's awakening brought back into a world that has very different priorities? While the themes and some narrative beats are the same, the Khandhakas focus on legal procedures and good conduct, while the Udāna is more concerned with inspiring people to take up the challenge of freedom. Each of the texts in this chapter deals in one way or another with the idea of the Brahmin, and thus can be seen in relation to the chapter on Brahmins that concludes the Dhammapada. The Brahmins were the most influential religious group in the Buddha's time, posing a major challenge to the Buddha and his followers in establishing their new religion. The Buddha co-opted the term Brahmin and redefined it, not as a hereditary caste, but as one who was spiritually awakened. In the first 3 discourses, this awakening is attributed to the Buddha's realization of dependent origination. In brief, this set of 12 conditions shows how, due to ignorance, we make moral choices that propel our consciousness into future rebirth. Once born in a new life, we grow to become attached to our experiences of pleasure and pain, not understanding that this is how we got here in the first place. Craving kicks in again and the round continues. The discourses of the Nidana Sayata, SN 12, linked discourses on causation, analyze this process from many angles, but here the focus is on the inspirational outcome of understanding, UD 1.3 when things become clear. To the keen, meditating Brahmin, he remains, scattering Mara's army, as the sun lights up the sky. The Buddha spent several weeks after his awakening simply sitting in meditation, enjoying the bliss of freedom. During this time he was approached by a whiny Brahmin, occasioning an explanation of the real spiritual meaning of Brahman, UD 1.4. From there, the chapter follows the theme rather than the narrative. Many mendicants are identified as Brahmins, showing that it was not the Buddha alone who could find perfection, UD 1.5. One of these is Venerable Mahakassapa, who showed his noble nature by refusing to accept the alms from deities, the most elevated food imaginable, and instead visited the streets of the destitute, giving them a chance to make merit, UD 1.6. The rest of the chapter continues to illustrate the qualities of real and fake Brahmins. There is a challenging episode when the mendicant Venerable Sagmaji is approached by his ex-wife with a child she says is his. She asks him to help look after her and the child. This is a callback to the discourse with Mahakassapa, which praises him as one who does not support a family. Sagmaji ignores his ex-wife's pleading, and she leaves with the child. On the face of it, It's a shocking story, where Sagmaji's heartlessness is praised as equanimity. Yet the story is more subtle than it might seem. Near the end of the text, the ex-wife makes to depart, leaving the child behind, but when she sees that even this provokes no response, she returns for the child. Now, the text describes her behavior here as vipakara, a somewhat obscure term that is usually translated following the commentary as bad manners or misbehavior. However, this word normally means change, alteration, Cohn's Dictionary of Pali, and in its only other occurrence in the canon, it means simply a change in posture, Parivara 15 minutes and 37.6 seconds. Here, therefore, it merely refers to the observation that she turned around and went back for the child. What that means is that neither here nor anywhere else in the text is she criticized for her actions. We don't know the circumstances of Sagmaji's departure from his wife. What kind of marriage was it? Why did he leave? We do not know. The commentary fills in some details, but since these are mostly lifted from the famous story of Rahapla, it is difficult to feel too confident in their veracity. And even then, it does not discuss his former marriage or how he left home. We are left with a story of an ex-wife's all-too-human need for her husband's support, and it confirmed renunciate's determination to continue on his path. The narrative highlights the tension between their responses, each determined by a different scale of value. The chapter concludes with a memorable combination of narrative and teaching, the story of Bāya. The core of the Buddha's teaching to Bāya is enigmatic, yet has become famous in modern meditation circles. In the seen will be merely the seen, in the heard will be merely the heard, in the thought will be merely the thought, in the known will be merely the known. These four terms describe the main ways spiritual or religious understanding arises: by the sight of a holy person, by hearing teachings through oral transmission, by philosophical reflection and contemplation, and by meditative realization. Here, as always in early texts, the third term muta means thought, not sensed, per the commentary. While it's tempting to take this brief teaching as an introductory overview of meditation, it's worth remembering that the narrative emphasizes that Bāya had already lived as an ascetic for many years. Indeed, he regarded himself as already awakened. The passage appears in another sutta as well, where it is also given to an experienced mendicant, SN 35.95. Bāya's belief in his awakening was a case of overestimation, but his spiritual sincerity is testified by the fact that once he realized this he right away accepted the fact and rushed to find the real thing. And his innate spiritual potential is shown when he immediately realizes full awakening upon hearing the teaching. Oddly, perhaps, the Udāna here is not the central teaching, but rather the concluding verses were given after Bāya's untimely death. Anticipating the final chapter of the Udāna, they offer a solemn meditation on Nibbana. Thank you for joining us in exploring the timeless wisdom of the Udāna. If you found peace or inspiration today, please like and subscribe to Silent Sutra, and awaken with us in the next chapter. Until then, stay mindful and be well.